Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I'm Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, we're going to continue on a little bit more with some superhero stuff, with some firsts in the superhero world. First, we had the 1978 Superman, the superhero movie that pretty much all superhero movies nowadays try to emulate. Then we had the 1989 Batman, the first of the actual darker, grittier live-action Batman movies.
Right.
And now we've got Iron Man, the first movie of the MCU, the one that started all of this modern Marvel movie stuff.
Not just Marvel, like it's kind of a lot of things that try to emulate the entire kind of expanded universe.
Yes.
Movie,
yes.
Not just movie universe,
but I guess, you're right.
Like TV universe. And
yeah, right, because, it was the first of the MCU movies, which then, spawned all these shared universe franchises.
Because DC wanted to do it, and you had like the monster universe stuff with the Kong movies and Godzilla. So
yeah,
obviously, Star Wars to a certain extent, which already kind of had its own.
Yeah, it had its own
universe
with
the books, but in terms of on screen. So, and what's interesting is that when it came out, it's not like people had an expectation.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Man was a B-list superhero at that point.
Yeah.
He had a cartoon in the 90s, and he had his own comic book for decades, but nobody really thought about Iron Man as, one of the best superheroes.
At the point, so you had, there was the X-Men series was out at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Spider-Man, which both Spider-Man and X-Men obviously were very well known. I shouldn't say X-Men, but X-Men obviously is a collection of characters. But yeah, I mean, they're very much kind of like Batman, Superman. Anyone tell you some stuff.
Everybody knew about them.
Even if they never read any of their comics.
Yeah.
They would know about Wolverine and Spider-Man.
They were the A-list. And
Iron Man was kind of, a little bit more known than some of the lower down, but still, most people wouldn't know much about him.
Yeah.
Even if they knew the name.
Yeah. And I mean,
if you think about it, it's kind of, Robert Downey Jr., at the time I thought that was great casting.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, it's also tricky casting because it's, again, like you said, like a B-level character.
Yeah, and
he's
had
an actor that had a rocky past.
Mm-hmm. Very rocky past. So it was a real risky move.
And we talk about these, shared universes. You had the X-Men series, right? So Bryan Singer and the Spider-Man series, right? With Sam Raimi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Fox controlled both, but they didn't attempt to have any crossover.
Spider-Man had was Sony.
That's right. That was Sony.
Sony had Spider-Man. Fox had X-Men. Yeah, and that's
so
why Marvel. Yeah, that's why Marvel was kind of forced to start digging down at the bottom of the barrel for superheroes for their movies because they had sold all of their top tier superhero rights to different companies over the years. Fox and Sony and Universal and
even Fantastic Four, right? I guess that was the other movies that had been out with the Fantastic Four movies, which were not as good as the Spider-Man movies and the X-Men movies.
No, I did enjoy the first Fantastic Four movie though. I mean, the second one to a certain extent, it wasn't as good as the first one, but still, I enjoyed it. Hopefully, the new one that they're coming out with will actually be MCU quality.
Trying again,
because that's one team that they have not been able to really get right in movies.
Pixar got it right with The Incredibles.
Yeah, but
anyway, but, and then they try to go dark with the more recent iteration of it. And it's like, no, it's not Fantastic Four.
The Josh Trank one.
That.
Yeah. Not every superhero movie needs to be dark.
Well, it's kind of interesting because, even Nolan's Batman movies are dark and mature, but not dark.
No, but also Batman is a darker character.
Yes,
Man of Steel, they made Superman too dark. Superman is not a dark character.
Right.
And one of the things that the MCU is doing really well, part of the reason why so many people love their movies is because with their characters, they actually make a movie that fits with how that character should be, how they are in the comics. They don't try to make them all fit into this one mold.
And this is a great point because when you look back, especially at phase one, which Iron Man kicks off, and you see how they do the first of each of those movies, right? It fits well within the character.
Yeah.
Who they are. And like even the Avengers movie, right? Like it felt more like one of those, like a team up.
Yeah. Just
comic,
like it was,
right?
yeah.
And
exactly how it was
comic
supposed to feel. Yeah.
Which, you know, we can, you know, if we do that down the road, like how well that actually was pulled off in terms of giving each of them their respective stuff.
Yeah. I mean, with 6 different headlining characters in one movie, it takes some effort to give everybody their due screen time.
Yes. While maintaining a really interesting villain storyline. But of course, in 2008, we couldn't have imagined that that was going to be the end point.
Yeah.
Like, you know, obviously at the end of the movie, they're going to go ahead and start teasing it.
Yeah.
But that was even that, at that point, they didn't even really.
No, man, it was a huge gamble. It was a huge gamble.
But I like watching this again because it's been a long time since I've seen the movie.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
Probably been since around where like Endgame was released.
Okay. See, so within the last few months, I had seen parts of it.
Okay. It's on TV enough.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen it on TV, watching parts of it, but this is the first time in several years that I've actually sat down and watched it all the way through.
And it's interesting, like going into it, I was wondering, okay, I've been revisiting a lot of more like in my memory, in my head, and like yeah, you know, like it still might be the best of them, and like
it's up there.
Watching it, I'm like, yeah, it might be up there. It's hard to say. Like I
don't know if it's the best of them, but it's definitely up there.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And like it held up incredibly well. And it's kind of funny looking back at some of it. You could see like, you know, some of the progressions and made with like technology.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly, like, I think about some of the like, I don't know, because it occupies an interesting time for people like our age, right?
Yeah.
You know, like it was right after, you know, just a year or two removed from college, right? So you're kind of in your early mid-20s. You know, I had a lot of time to devote to be able to like really eat that shit up, right?
Yeah.
And like, you know, yeah, I just, you know, I remember getting together a bunch of dudes. That sounds really weird, bunch of dudes. Like, yeah, you know, pounds of beers and one tired. But no, like it was a thing. It's like, yeah, you're getting with your buddies because you could, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was still a time where, like, yeah, blockbuster type movies are a big thing, and we geeked out over it because it was that good of a movie.
Yeah, it was.
And so another one of those ones too. It's like, okay, the appeal of it was not just on these just comic book nerds.
No, it wasn't.
Like,
it was
broke through all of that, and again, it gets back into like, okay, it's might have been like a B character, but the appeal of it went well beyond that. Just like Superman and Spider-Man and Batman, right?
Yeah. And yeah, he might have started out as a B character, but as soon as that movie came out, he skyrocketed to top tier on everybody's superhero list.
Oh, yeah.
There was a huge resurgence in people seeking out Iron Man comics and just wanting to learn more about Iron Man.
Yeah. And what's funny is like
kids wanted to dress up as him for Halloween, and you know, adults wanted to dress up as him for Halloween.
It was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is, like, okay, like he finally had a successful TV series, but in terms of comics, like, I think Daredevil has so much better comics than Iron Man.
Yep.
Like, if I was going to suggest like a really good comic to read to someone that's not that familiar with the character, that's outside of like the big ones, like Daredevil would have been the one I would have gone to.
Well, I mean, Daredevil also had Frank Miller writing a lot of them. So
yes. So if you have not read Frank Miller's Daredevil run, I'd actually say just pause this fucking podcast right now and just read Frank Miller's Daredevil run.
Yeah.
Because
Daredevil Born Again. Because especially since the new Daredevil show.
I cannot wait for that. Oh my goodness.
Born Again seems to be sort of an adaptation of the Born Again storyline by Frank Miller.
We'll see. But anyway, enough of Daredevil. This is not a Ben Affleck podcast.
Yes, we might do the Ben Affleck Daredevil someday, but probably not. But we might.
Strangely enough, so one of the things I think is interesting about watching this, though, is 'cause, we talked about doing Oppenheimer, and Robert Downey Jr. is obviously an Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of similarities between this and Oppenheimer, and in terms of the industrial complex and the arms race, all of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even within that, they talk about beginning the movie. His dad worked on the Manhattan Project.
Yeah.
He's an arms developer, right?
Yeah.
So contracting out to the government. So.
No. So now, real quick, before we really get into it, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about the movie, every bit of it, beginning, middle, and end. So if you do not want to be spoiled, if you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then pause the podcast, watch the movie, and come back and listen. If you don't mind spoilers, keep on listening, but you have been warned.
Right. This movie's 16 years old now.
It is.
16 years old.
Yeah.
You know what movie was 16 years old when this came out? The Bodyguard.
It was, wasn't it? And I will always love you. Oh.
Just straddling that chair. Right? Anyway. Rest in peace, Whitney.
Yes, rest in peace, Whitney Houston. Crack is whack.
Kevin Costner is doing a new Western, I hear.
Yep.
He's still doing his thing.
Yep. Yep. But anyway, when did you first see it?
Downey, it was really, and then with Jon Favreau. If you haven't seen it, Favreau is no stranger to.
Yeah.
In watching the movie, especially the beginning of the movie, the early scenes, you could see kind of a lot of, with The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of similarities.
Oh, I mean, it's right? Jon Favreau. But yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a similar style.
Like, especially when he's wearing the suit, like okay,
yep.
Yeah,
yep.
You could see how this helped inspire a lot of Mandalorian.
Yeah, yeah. So I first saw this movie in the theater. It was back when the Regal and Lawrence had, before it was the Regal, when it was Hollywood Theaters.
Hollywood Theater.
Yeah, when it was Hollywood Theaters before Regal bought them. Yeah, when my brother-in-law knew the manager and he'd let us into movies. Mm-hmm. So I saw this one for free. But no, yeah, I saw that it wasn't opening night. It was shortly after opening weekend, but I don't think it was actually opening weekend.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I saw opening weekend at the Countryside Regal. Might have been that Friday, might have been that Saturday, but little did we know, like we already talked about, like in some ways it's the beginning, like obviously it's drawing off old source material, but like then again, like the first Superman, Batman obviously did that too, but truly the beginning of a whole new series. I don't think it's when you watch Star Wars 1977, people weren't expecting that. Okay, this will launch this massive series. Yeah,
this worldwide phenomenon.
Same with if you watch Raiders, like 1981. And that's what we witnessed with Iron Man. Like, when we sat down to watch, like, Lord of the Rings in 2001, like, you knew it was what was going to happen.
Yeah, because they had already announced that they're bringing out the other ones. That they filmed all three movies at the same time, and they're going to be releasing the other two. Yeah, so another thing that I was just thinking that this movie is a first, that Iron Man is a first for, is making the post-credit scene a normal thing. Like, it's far from the first movie to have a post-credit scene, but...
Yeah, but usually just kind of silly.
Those are kind of just things that you would stumble on unless you knew it was there.
Teaser.
No, but this one... So Iron Man is the one that really made it a thing that now any movie that you go and see, there's going to be somebody sitting in that theater waiting till the credits are done. Even if it's... some movie that you would not... You just
sat through a 3-hour movie. I'm sorry that you gotta, pee, but you're gonna wait another 10 minutes.
Even if it's like a coin collecting documentary, somebody is gonna be sitting there until the end of the credits to see if they flip a coin or something.
When they do a reissue, I think they are gonna reissue on Titanic. I'm sure someone was still waiting for them to announce the Lusitania.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, and yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's not just a post-credit scene, but it's a teaser for what's coming next. What's coming up. Maybe not immediately next, but it's setting up the Avengers.
Eventually it would become.
you know?
And this one in particular, we'll get there, really wasn't what the next one was.
Yeah.
It was teasing the larger thing as a whole.
Yeah.
So what it opens, basically the opening scene is really, it's not him receiving the award, it's actually him.
Yeah, because
desert.
It's him in the desert with
you
the
don't
Air
even
Force.
know much of who he is. He's just riding in the convoy, right?
Yeah, he's riding in a Humvee with some airmen, and
I always feel bad for them because they're just these innocent people that get murdered.
Yeah.
But it's just it makes you kind of think about like soldiers just happening, and they just seem so ordinary, man and woman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's obviously somebody famous because they're all of
him, right? And in some ways, he's not like Bruce Wayne, right? He's a son of a billionaire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
he's the heir to a fortune, and
he's a tabloid guy, but also a genius himself. Right? As we see, neither one of them actually has superpowers on their own. So this is where I think it's kind of funny watching part of it that was there's a selfie scene in it, right? But it's with a camera, not a phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Because at that, this is the first iPhone was 2007. So
yeah, so it was
the smartphone wasn't quite there in terms of the whole.
Yeah, there were camera phones, but not.
Oh, and we do see the camera
not like smartphones. Yeah, they were typically flip phones with a camera on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's some FaceTiming on the phones later. That's again you can tell because it's like Tony Stark using it.
Yeah.
It's kind of at that point still very exclusive technology.
Yes. Only for the rich. But
just if you watch the old 80s stuff and you see the gigantic stuff. Anyway. But Wall Street.
Yep. At the brick. My dad had one of those.
I bet he did. Sounds like your dad.
I think he might still have it buried in a box somewhere.
He'd probably get a fortune for that thing now.
Yeah, probably.
Pay, he can probably, whatever he get for it today is whatever, just for inflation, probably actually end up about even.
Yeah. He's gonna go dig it out of a box, and then as soon as he pulls it out of the box, then Indy's gonna show up. It belongs in a museum.
Anyway, there's another aspect of this scene though that it's this helps state it too in some ways, and not in a bad way. It's is it true you just went 12 for 12 with the maximum cover?
Yes, the maximum cover girls. Yes.
And one of them had
that's partially true.
No.
March had a scheduling conflict, but lucky for me, December was twins.
Anyway, Barney Stinson emulates this,
yes,
right?
Barney Stinson approves.
But then they get attacked, right? And
yeah,
the comes out, and then
everybody in his Humvee gets killed.
Gets hit with one of his missiles, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
then so he jumps out of the Humvee, hides behind a rock, and then little rocket goes falling out of the sky and lands on the ground. He sees Stark Industries logo on the side of it, and then as he's trying to get away from it, it explodes, and he wakes up on an operating table in a cave.
Right, and then and then that's when it cuts to the Iron Man. Right, it's kind of like the classic kind of cold open for a television episode, right? You kind of this little prologue happens, and then it actually kind of goes back in time. Yeah. Briefly.
There's a little it jumps back 36 hours into the past, and we get to see what led up to that convoy and the attack and all of that.
He's receiving this award in Vegas, and he's not there to receive it,
Mm-hmm. So Jeff Bridges, who plays Obadiah Stane, who was Tony's father Howard's right-hand man, and basically the guy that runs Stark Industries while Tony's off being a billionaire playboy. Kind of like how Bruce Wayne has Lucius Fox run the company, run Wayne Enterprises.
Yes.
But Obadiah Stane is not nearly as trustworthy as Lucius Fox.
You'll find out. And you would think, it's the dude. What's he going to do? So,
which it was great to see Jeff Bridges play kind of an out of character role for him.
It's kind of funny, at this point, like Big Lebowski had enough of a cult following, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, oh yeah, and like and it's funny just watching him in this because I think when I first watched it, I wanted to say like, oh yeah, he was like this great villain in it or a great actor in it. He did a competent job. He seemed like he was more of a veteran within a villain job, right? But as I've rewatched it over time, he's really, really good at this.
Yes, he is. He is fantastic in this. I mean, every time he's like on screen doing his villain things, he chews the scenery just enough. He doesn't go overboard with it, but he doesn't underplay it. He does it perfectly.
There's a scene later in the movie that I for some reason every time I see it, I'll laugh at it because it's just I don't know what it is. But we were talking about how like they had the technology over basically they're FaceTiming each other on their phones. Right?
Yeah, he's laying in bed.
Basically in his bed.
He's just laying in his bed, like
his shirt off. You have his chest hair kind of showing.
Yeah, his little gold necklace.
You imagine he's doing his he's imagining he's Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you almost the way he's laying there in bed, you almost expect a woman's arm to come over his shoulders or something while he's talking.
Anyway, he accepts. We get to because at this point you don't know that he's the villain, right? He accepts it, and they go into this whole list of how he's like Tony Stark was his child prodigy, and then his dad died, he inherited the company and whatever. No one knows where he is, right? Because the person presenting it to him is also one of his friends, right?
Yeah. Yes, his best friend.
Yes, Brody. Right? Who will switch actors later in the series. And that's okay. I kind of feel bad for Terrence Howard because I actually think Terrence Howard was really good.
Yes, he was. He is. So I was thinking about this. So, starting in Iron Man 2, they had recast Terrence Howard with Don Cheadle. And Don Cheadle has been Rhodey ever since. So Terrence Howard is a great Rhodey, right? I don't know how he would be as War Machine, though.
It's kind of funny because he sees the armor later.
Yes, he does. He sees the armor later. He's like, next time. He's like, next time.
No, Terrence.
Next time, baby.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he was a fantastic Rhodey, but I don't know, especially after seeing Don Cheadle play War Machine,
yes.
I don't know how Terrence Howard would be as, with the War Machine persona.
Yeah, we'll never know.
Yeah. Maybe there's an alternate universe out there where he was never recast.
It's just like, I should say it's just like, because like in Nolan's Batman's, right? Katie Holmes gets cast as Maggie Gyllenhaal. And Maggie Gyllenhaal is better. And anyway, when we do Dark Knight, we talk about.
Yeah, talk about all that. This is Iron Man episode.
Anyway, Tony Stark is just, this awards being presented in Vegas. So he's at the casino. He's gambling. He's at a craps table.
Yeah. And, while he's standing there at the craps table, Rhodey comes walking up to him and hands him the award.
He's like, that's nice. I guess it's at Caesar's Palace because we see Caesar later.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So, yeah, he's at Caesar's Palace.
He bequeaths the award to Caesar.
Yes, he does. As they're leaving. First, he has the beautiful lady that's standing next to him that he had blow on his dice right before he tried to get Rhodey to blow on his dice.
But then he rolls snake eye.
So he hands the award to the woman to hold on to while he rolled the dice.
And it's like, oh, what,
as they're leaving, as they're walking past Caesar out front, then he bequeaths the award to Caesar.
But it's when you look at the entirety of it and the arc of his character, right? Like you can just see all that's okay, whatever. This is just kind of all this meaningless stuff. He's interested in the money. He's interested in the girls. right? He's not even that interested in like some of the he's interested in the notoriety, but
Yeah, but
not that particular way in terms of being honored, and I'll become a thing. And the whole thing they're concerned about is because the next day is supposed to leave to go to Afghanistan.
Yep.
To demo their new weapon, the Jericho missile.
Yeah, because as you said earlier, Stark Industries is they supply arms to the military.
All right. Oh, while he's there, right? There's the he meets the reporter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vanity Fair, because Vanity Fair has hard-hitting reporters.
Yes.
Are really concerned about war crimes.
Yes. Yes, they are. Especially Christine Everhart, played by Leslie Bibb. You gotta get those hard-hitting reporters from Vanity Fair.
Gwyneth Paltrow affectionately calls her the trash.
Yes.
But so interesting, Gwyneth Paltrow is kind of in this role because she was pretty famous at the time, and she's like kind of a very secondary role as Pepper, right?
Well, in this movie, she gets she has a bigger part in the other ones, but
right.
But in this movie, it's a secondary role, but she actually does play a significant part. She does play a significant part in it, though.
Oh yes,
but she's very good in it.
Yeah, I mean, she's more than just like Jon Favreau's in it too. As
Happy Hogan,
he plays a bigger role later.
Yeah,
Happy plays a bigger role later, specifically in the Iron Man movies. He plays a bigger role.
Yes. So Happy Hogan is Tony Stark's head of security.
Yes. He didn't really have many lines in this one. Does he have any lines in this one?
I don't
think he does.
Maybe one or two lines, but
he has he has actual scenes and set pieces in Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's directing the movies.
Yeah, he's directing the movie, so I mean, he's busy.
I mean, this is not Clint Eastwood sometimes, I guess. Yeah. And, he's like 90.
Yeah. But
yeah, she's pressing him about developing the weapons and selling them and being the merchant of death, right? That's what she says. Well, does she? No, it's the two, like the Da Vinci of our times and the merchant of death.
Yeah.
He says he doesn't paint, so he's not like Da Vinci.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not like Da Vinci, I don't paint.
And then it's really kind of crazy how quickly she drops her panties for him.
Yes, because the next scene, it cuts to the next morning, and she's laying naked in his bed with a very thin sheet covering her, and he's nowhere to be found.
He didn't say a whole lot. Like he switched immediately to he went very quickly to like coming on her, and like as she was saying that you're a horrible person.
Yeah.
And then she just that quick is like, you know what? I'm gonna give you my holy holies. Yep.
So she wakes up.
Jarvis is saying good morning.
Puts on Tony's clothes because hers weren't in the room. So she puts on one of Tony's shirts and walks out into the living room area. And Pepper Potts comes walking in carrying dry cleaned clothes.
You must be the famous Pepper Potts. And it's kind of funny. He's like, I do anything that Mr. Stark requires. Not exactly, because
even occasionally taking out the trash.
She has not slept with him yet.
She's not, but has he required her to sleep with him? That's the thing. That's the thing. He's not someone who forces himself upon people.
No, yes, but if
he charms them, he charms their panties off. He's not that kind of guy, though. He's not going to force somebody to do it.
We're gonna. Okay. All right then.
So
they develop a good relationship over the course of the movie.
Yes.
Beyond just being boss. Anyway, it's always very respectful. It's always very respectful because a lot of times boss and assistants always kind of
and really
there's always this weird rapey vibe sometimes when boss and assistant.
And really, Pepper is the only woman that he doesn't try to put the moves on.
Right.
He respects her, and there's a mutual respect.
It's funny,
there,
like when he does try to make some type of move, it's like a legitimate move.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she leaves, and then he has to get to the airstrip, right? Because he's late. He spent all night with a lady.
So he's got to get to his private jet.
And Brody's there, and he's chastising him for being late. And he's still just thinking like, what's these flight attendants?
And then he gets the
dance around a pole for them.
Oh no! First he Rhodey is berating him for being late. And Tony, tells the flight attendants to get the champagne and bring out the sushi. And Rhodey's like, I'm not drinking. I'm on the clock. And then it cuts to them drunk on the couch while the flight attendants are dancing on the pole. Because there is a stripper pole in the private jet.
It's like, okay, you're on the clock, but you're doing a transatlantic flight. Granted, you're going to be flying faster than commercial, but still.
Yeah. It's still going to take several hours to get where you're going. You're not flying on a Concorde.
No. It's not like you're even flying to Europe. No, you're flying to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
You're not even flying to Moscow or Cairo or no. There's still a few thousand miles to go.
Yeah.
But they get there, right? So that's when he demonstrates the Jericho missile. And it's I always love, it's kind of become that meme where he demonstrates it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Got his arms spread out.
Missiles come in and blow up everything. Right? He's like, what's the line? He's like, I believe in the weapon you only have to fire it once.
Yeah. I believe in the kind of weapon you only have to fire once.
And that's when it cuts into the scene from the beginning. Ambush.
Yep. When they're getting into the Humvees, and Rhodey.
And we kind of, I guess,
Rhodey's Humvee is up farther ahead, and Tony calls his Humvee the Fun V. It's like, this is the Fun V. The Humdrum V's up there.
Because, he's drinking the good stuff. He's got a good bourbon and a scotch.
I love, after the demonstration, he walks over to that big crate that just has a bar in it. He pours himself some scotch. It's like, one of these comes free with every order of 50,000 or more.
You just blew up an entire village. Have yourself some Lafraid. Oh, no, you like McCollum. There you go.
Yep.
Or if you're more Irishly inclined, some Tullamore Dew.
Yep.
Yeah, but then, it cuts to the scene, I guess we kind of forgot.
Tony Stark wouldn't be drinking Tullamore Dew. He'd be drinking Middleton.
Yes, he would. I guess we kind of forgot, not, the opening scene, it was just, we saw him on the operating table, but kind of like that classic scene where you had a hostage doing the video. It had that scene too.
Yes, they did.
But now, it kind of cuts to that. And he's in the middle of his room inside this cave. And he's kind of waking up. And
after being operated on. Doesn't know why he was being operated on, but...
Fellow captive there, Yinsen. I love this guy. I love him.
So Tony tries to get up out of the bed and realizes that he's got a car battery attached to his chest. And so, he meets Yinsen, who was the doctor who did the surgery, who was another captive. But he explains to him that he had a bunch of shrapnel in his chest, and he got as much out as he could, but there were still some pieces that were slowly making their way to his heart. And once they made their way to his heart, it was going to kill him. So
he put an electromagnet in there.
Yeah, so he had to put an electromagnet in his chest to keep those pieces of shrapnel from getting close to his heart. And so that's why there's a car battery, because it was powering the electromagnet.
And he talks about how, in his village, people have died this way. They call them the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Before that became a TV series.
Yeah. It was after it was a comic book, though.
Yes, it was.
The Walking Dead comics started in 2003. So, but
the original run of the comics, especially the first. Anyway, I'm not the original 20, 30 issues of Walking Dead comics are freaking fantastic. Anyway,
love that series. But yeah.
And, he describes how being held captive by this group called the Ten Rings. And, they speak a bunch of different languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the leader, this guy named Raza, right? He wants him to build a Jericho missile, and then he'll let him free. Right?
Supposedly.
But
yeah, so he said says they have everything that he needs to build one, because they have all these other weapons that they got from somewhere. We don't know where yet. All these other Stark weapons.
I like all this exchange, too. He's talking about how Alexander the Great used the leading technology of the day, helped conquer the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has that same ambition. Tony Stark kind of was like, I'm dead, but he agrees to do it, right?
He agrees to do it, but not really.
He's thinking.
He agrees to do it because he has a different idea. But
all this time, like, you see him developing this friendship with Yinsen, right? Talks about his family, and they get working. And Yinsen has no idea what he's doing yet, but he starts showing him this sketch that he's
before the sketch. Tony's working on something, and Jensen's helping him with it, but he doesn't know what. Right. And he tells him he's building a miniature arc reactor, and he's got a big one that powers his factory at home.
His facility at home. Yeah. Yep.
And so it turns out that he's building this mini power source to replace the battery that's hooked up to his chest. Yeah. So he can plug it into the electromagnet, and it'll power it. It gives enough power to keep his heart going for 50 lifetimes, or something real big for 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
And then he shows them the sketch of what he's doing.
I like how they do. It's like, he has to be smart about it because he knows they're being watched.
Mm-hmm.
But coming in to check on them, periodically, like daily or twice a day, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and they got a camera in there.
He has to build it in several different sheets.
Yeah.
Builds on top of them,
so
that
because they come in there, they inspect, they look at his plans every day when they go in there. Every time they go in, seeing
bits and pieces. Yeah. A much larger.
Yeah, because there's several sheets that he lays on top of it, on top of each other, to actually create the full image. Puts it together in sort of a cross section kind of thing.
And eventually, they get tired because it's taking too long.
Mm-hmm.
And they give him one more day left, right? They threaten Yinsen. So eventually, they see that last day, okay, something else is going on here.
Yeah.
As basically piecing together the armor that he's going to wear.
Because they're looking at the camoras. They're watching the monitor and everything, and he's sitting there.
This does not look like the Jericho missile.
He's got this piece of metal on his leg, and he's moving it, bending his knee and moving it around. And what? This is not a. This doesn't look like a Jericho missile. They're looking at the pictures of the missile.
You're building armor, not a missile.
Yeah, but I love it because they pull out the pictures of the Jericho missile, and they're trying to compare it to what they're seeing on the screen. This is not a missile.
What I love about it is they were smart enough, they rigged the door to their cell.
Yeah, they put a little bomb on there. And and they have a sheet up with the armor, behind it, so he can sort of be concealed while he's suiting up. And so he's got Yinsen helping him put the armor on, and meanwhile the guards are coming to check him out and see what they're doing because they know that they're up to no good.
Yeah.
And so they go to open the door, and that little bomb goes off, kills a few of them, and then the rest of them come running, and Yinsen realizes that because he's trying to prime the suit with the computer, but the status bar is going real slow, so he needs more time before the suit's ready to go.
Grabs one of the guns of the guys that got blown up.
Yeah, and he decides he's going to buy Tony a little more time. And Tony tells him, no, you need to get out of here. You need to get back to your family. And that's when he reveals...
We don't know yet.
Yeah, because before they were talking where, when they get out, he's going to go back to his family, and he'll see his family.
Tony knows that his family's already dead.
Yeah, because this is when he goes to buy Tony time. That's when he tells him. He reveals to him that my family's already dead. Or wait, it was after that. No, because he buys him time, runs out there.
You see him running down. He shoots a few, and he kind of gets to the end of the cave, and then
and then as Tony comes out, once the suit's primed and ready to go, he comes out in his.
Some guys are kind of in there, and all of a sudden they hear the fully power up.
Yep. And he punches one of them across the cave.
This is probably still one of my favorite action sequences in the last probably 20
fantastic. Years. Yes, this is fantastic.
It's so good, and I love it because it's really true if you read the origin of the Iron Man comics.
Yeah.
They switch it up because this takes place in Afghanistan. The origin of the character is during Vietnam.
Yeah.
But
they had to modernize it,
is towards what was drawn in the original comic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the escape of it mirrors so much of that, and I love it.
Yeah. It is an awesome sequence. But yeah, so he's going through the cave, taking out guards here and there, and comes across Yinsen, who's laying.
Well, even before that, he gets his arm kind of.
Oh yes, stuck in the wall.
He comes up to him, little pistol,
shoots him in the side of the helmet, and he just kind of looks at him.
The ricochet hits a guy there.
Yeah. So yeah, he shoots him in the side of the helmet, ricochets back, hits himself in the head, and kills himself with it. And then Tony kind of just looks, looks at him. What just happened?
He's able to
he's able to pull his arm out.
But then he comes at the incident. He can tell he's been shot and he's dying.
And so he tells him, "Come on, Jensen, we got to get you out of here so you can see your family." And that's when Jensen tells him, "My family's already dead. I'm going to see them now."
Yeah, basically, he tells him is to what's the word? I had it up here for a second. What does he say?
Oh, he tells him. He tells him. So Jensen's last words. Yeah, Jensen's last words are something along the lines of, "You have your life back. Don't waste it."
Don't waste it. I would say that. That's what it was. Don't waste it, right? I was kind of looking for it. I almost feel just watching it. Maybe kind of think of Saving Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
When Tom Hanks. Sorry to spoil Saving Private Ryan. Tom Hanks dies.
You're just spoiling all kinds of movies on this one.
He's looking at David. We all died so you could go home to your mother. Have a good life.
At least you're just spoiling the movies that have been out for more than 15 years.
I mean, Saving Private Ryan, that was 98. It was a 10-year-old movie at that point. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it changes him, right? Because and then he comes out of the cave. He still has to face off some people in the cave, right? He fights them off, and then he blasts off, and then obviously it comes to the end of the 15 minutes. Yep. And he just crashes.
And he just crashes in the middle of the desert. Which I always wondered. He gets to a high altitude there. He flies up and then just drops. How does he survive that fall?
I have no idea how he survived.
I mean, I get it. His next iterations of his armor. Sure.
Well,
put in various ways that it could adapt to the force of slamming into the ground like that. But that one
later in the movie, he realizes I need to put in something so my suit doesn't freeze in high altitude.
Yeah. I need to change the material that it's made out of so it has a lower freezing point. And
he had it.
Need to use a gold alloy.
I need a way to make sure that if I fall from cruising altitude.
Yeah. So how did he survive that fall?
I mean, I should say cruising altitude. He didn't get to 30,000 feet.
No, he didn't get to cruising altitude, but he got
launched
plenty high enough.
Air.
He still went up several hundred feet, and then he came right back down with nothing to break his fall but a sand dune. And he just walks away from it. He gets up and he just walks away from it.
Yeah, and he just walks away. He's just walking through the desert, and then at some point, the army had to know somehow, to find them in the middle of a vast desert. Yeah. And I get that Rhodey's there. I can understand why Rhodey was there to, pick him up. But I don't know, mate. I guess I knew approximately where to look for him. But at this point, he's been probably missing for several months. Yeah,
I think they said it was 3 months or something like that.
So
that he was gone.
They rescue him and then flies back. And he comes out of the helicopter. He refuses the paramedics. And then all he wants at this point is a cheeseburger.
Yeah, they want to take him home. And he's like, no, I need an American cheeseburger and set up a press conference. He's like, what? No, Tony, you need to go home and rest. He's like, no, set up a press conference. Burger first.
Cheeseburger first. And this is where we know, there's product placement here, right?
Yeah. So, he's sitting there eating a Burger King cheeseburger.
If it's more realistic, it probably would have been In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah. But In-N-Out Burger is not nationwide.
But it's California.
Yes,
right?
it is California.
In-N-Out Burger,
And In-N-Out Burger would be fitting because the dude's in this movie.
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges. And there's
a dude a burger.
Yeah. And there's an iconic scene with them eating In-N-Out Burger in the car in Big Lebowski. After visiting little Larry Sellers.
I kill your fucking car.
This is what happens, Larry. This is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps. It's still my favorite TV edit. My favorite TV dub. This is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps.
You get kidnapped by Afghans. Anyway. Or Afghani's doing the Alps.
But yes,
I don't know.
In-N-Out Burger would probably have been more realistic in that situation.
Yeah. Like, you Burger King, like, anywhere you go, like, Burger King, like,
yeah. But,
so,
I mean,
like,
yeah, it's product
you're choosing,
placement.
like, big fast food burgers, like, why not choose Wendy's?
True. But when you think of burger, I mean, Burger King has burger in the name, so.
Yeah. True. Anyway.
Yeah,
so,
and also Burger King probably paid more than Wendy's would have, more than McDonald's would have.
Wendy's relies on their wit and their charm and the quality ass burgers.
Yeah.
And the spicy chicken nuggets.
Yes, they got some great spicy chicken nuggets. Love their spicy chicken nuggets and their spicy chicken sandwich.
Not to mention their Frosties.
Yes.
I wish I had a Frosty right now.
Yes, me too. There's a Wendy's right down the street. I could go get one right now, but I'm not going to because we're in the middle of recording. But
if you're ever listening to this, because I know you have an A+ social media game, you could just give each one of us a free Frosty.
Yeah, and coupon. Yeah.
We would be more than happy, and we will plug you every episode.
Yeah, we will keep on talking about the wonderful Wendy's Frosties.
I will plug you every single episode.
Yes.
Anyway, let's sit down at the press conference, and he doesn't want to stand up. He just wants to sit down. It's very casual, right? Meanwhile, this dude shows up next to Pepper, wanting them to have a debrief.
Yeah.
She's like, that's a mouthful. Mouthful. It's like, yeah, we're working on it. Yeah. It's like it's the first.
He walks out. He says, "I'm Agent Coulson with the Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement Logistics Division." And she's like, "That's a mouthful." It's like, "Yeah, we're working on that."
And they sit down. And he's having a conversation about his dad. And, you could tell he's had a life-changing experience. Like, he almost died, and he sees that his weapons are not just going to like America; they're going to people that are fighting against America. Yeah, right. And being used on.
He brings that up to Obadiah. That how are they getting these weapons? He's like, they're not getting the weapons. He's like, I saw them myself. They are getting these weapons. How are they getting them? Because the press conference was so he could tell the world that Stark Industries is not creating weapons anymore. Yeah, which at this point everyone stands up and it becomes that thing, whatever, and kind of ends, and he's like, the important thing is Tony's back. Yeah. And he goes the whole thing, and he kind of had the montage, like the old Mad Money guys, like sell. Yep. Weapons manufacturer doesn't manufacture weapons because they had anticipated that their stock would drop at least 40%, or at least 40 points, or whatever it was. And so then later, a little bit later, when he comes in and tells them that it dropped 40, then we knew that would happen. We talked about that. We knew it would happen. And he's like, I don't care. We're not making weapons. And so they're standing there in front of the big arc reactor that Howard Stark had made that powers the facility. And Obadiah is asking him, well, if we're not going to be making weapons, what are we going to be doing then? And he's like, we're going to research arc reactor technology. And he's like, that's impossible. We can't. This was a novelty. It was a gimmick. And then he sort of stops. He's like, show it to me. Because Tony had never mentioned to him that he made a miniaturized arc reactor. Nope. But he had heard about it. Yeah. Somebody told him about it. And so, he shows it to him. And at this point, we have our, we have an idea that Obadiah Stane may be. Yeah, at this point, he keeps being suspicious. Maybe kind of shady, but. Yeah, that's probably better than suspicious. Yeah, he's shady. Yeah, but, I mean, he's working for an arms manufacturer. Yeah, but that's not fully revealed yet. Yeah, you can tell. He's definitely someone that's more concerned about money. So, he's not the most cool dude in the world. It's revealed that he's working for an arms manufacturer, Stark Industries. But yeah, it doesn't. It's not fully revealed that he's working with terrorists, with a terrorist organization. That he's providing the weapons. Yes. On Tony. And that he's the one that sold the weapons to the Ten Rings and then ordered the hit on Tony. Because he was just fed up with them, essentially. So he tells Tony. So he tells Tony. He really wants control all to himself so that he could go ahead and sell weapons to whoever. Yeah. So he tells Tony that the board voted him out. They voted Tony out because he didn't want to make weapons anymore. So, but it's revealed later that it was Obadiah that did that voted him out. That's later, but he wants more details at this point on the miniature. Yes, on how he created the miniaturized arc reactor in a cave. Stark's like, no. Like, no, that's That's my little secret.
I almost forgot. Like I like the scene where he's talked about how they're gonna vote him out. Brings him a pizza.
Yes. Yes, from Ray's.
Brings him a pizza.
From Ray's Pizza in New York.
Because the board's in New York, right? So
yeah, and this is after Tony has started work on.
He's already started new prototypes.
He's starting the newer versions.
At this point, he doesn't have the suit yet, right?
Yeah,
the suit got destroyed when he landed in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, but he still had his plans because he remembered his drawings and everything, so he was able to recreate it in his little 3D holographic setup thing there.
I love how he builds it too. And I love all that.
Yeah.
The little robotic arm.
The montage of building the suit, and he's got the robotic arm that just can't get anything right.
Until, it needs to present with him the original part that he had from Afghanistan. Yeah, so Tony was able to develop an upgraded mini-arc reactor to replace the one that he made in the cave, and he's sitting down in his workshop and calls Pepper down there because she has smaller hands than he does. Because there's a wire that is touching the side of the casing around the arc reactor, and it's causing him a lot of pain. And his hands are too big to fit down in there to move it. She's got petite lady hands. So he calls her down there because her hands are smaller than his, and she can reach down there and move the wire out of the way. But ends up pulling out the electromagnet. Which, okay, so did the new arc reactor have an electromagnet built into it? Or that's what? Because he told her, do not pull out the electromagnet. That's what's keeping the metal shards from my heart. Going into his heart, yeah. And she pulls it out, and then he just sticks the new arc reactor in there without putting the magnet back in. So, is there a magnet in the arc reactor then? We'll never know, I guess. I think it would make sense to do that. Yeah, so she asks him what to do with it, and he says throw it away. But she doesn't, because he's not sentimental. But this is amazing. This is like your invention. He's like, yeah, throw it away. I'm not sentimental. So she takes it, and a little bit later on comes down with a package and and a cup of coffee for him while he's working. And I think that's when Obadiah comes in with the pizza. It is, yes. But that's what's great about Downey and all of this is like he's chill. But this is where it gets into like the Oppenheimer problem I was talking about earlier. He starts thinking about like, what am I going to actually doing with myself and my knowledge? Yeah. What am I doing to better the advancement of the world? And like, we'll get into this later a little bit, I guess. And like, Obadiah is like, oh no, these things can transform the world. These weapons. Yeah. And as you mentioned before, his dad, Tony Stark's dad, Howard, worked on the Manhattan Project. Mm-hmm. So. And we get, later in the Iron Man movies and the Avengers movies, kind of talk more about his dad and looking to advance and better the world. But, like, again, you're doing that using weapons. Like, it does present a lot of ethical questions. Yeah. About what this technology will do or can do in the wrong hands. Right? Yeah. So, yeah, it was funny. Like, I only, I had kind of made the connection watching Oppenheimer with it, but watching it again kind of came full circle. Yeah, and it's funny. It's funny because everybody talks about Rhodey being recast, starting out as Terrence Howard and then moving on to Don Cheadle. And everybody talks about that being the first MCU recast. But it's not exactly true. No. Howard Stark. Yep. In the footage that they showed from when Howard Stark was alive, he's played by Gerard Sanders in Iron Man. Yeah. And then, there are two other actors that play him throughout the rest of the series. Yeah. Throughout the rest of the MCU, depending on what time period they're in. Yeah. And then, later, then also early on, you get the recast of Edward Norton. Mm-hmm. Ruffalo. Yes. As Bruce Banner, which is a movie that's on failing. Like, I'm kind of glad they brought it back into the fold for William Hurt. But I think Incredible Hulk actually, in some ways, has some of the best action sequences of the entire MCU. Although they aren't going to be doing another solo Hulk movie because they can't really, at least not to keep the full rights with it, because Universal still owns the distribution rights for Hulk. Right. Which gets into the whole thing. At that point, they still hadn't had. Yeah. So Marvel owns the character. Now. They can use the character. They just can't have him lead a movie. They can have him as a supporting character in a movie, but shows that they just show that don't have all of it kind of mapped out. It's funny because like I think probably one of the best Hulk storylines actually shows up in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Where they kind of do Planet Hulk.
Yeah, they kind of do Planet Hulk, and now they're gearing up for a World War Hulk for that storyline. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that, if they actually get to the point where they can make a solo Hulk movie or not, or if they're going to bring
it. Planet Hulk. They got, I don't know. Then you bring in World War Hulk. You got to bring in like the X-Men too. I don't know.
Yeah, which they're bringing in the X-Men. So. It's just how are they ultimately going to do it? They've teased them. They
did bring back some of them. It's like,
but
it's just like, and again, like I don't want to get too far into the nitty gritty of like the MCU.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, like I'm definitely behind on some of it, and in some ways I think they kind of, especially with the success of Guardians, I think they thought they could really reach deep and make a lot of a success.
Yeah.
Because like, when Guardians came out, like it was definitely they weren't. They had an Infinity Gem that tied it into all of the saga, but like it was still very different than the rest of it. A lot of that was sold because like you had Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Bradley. I mean, like it was Bradley Cooper's voice, but
yeah. I mean, it was also Vin Diesel's voice.
Vin Diesel. Like I don't know, they had enough name recognition there.
Then they also had James Gunn directing it, though.
You're still towards the peak of where they were. That people were willing to buy almost anything into it.
Yeah, but even you put all those actors in there, and it's still, if somebody other than James Gunn was directing it, it would have been a completely different movie, even with all the same actors. Right. Same actors, same writers, everything. But James Gunn put his stamp on it, and just all that stuff combined just worked together to make it what it was.
And they were able to execute it well with Black Panther too, because like Black Panther's deep bench also. I mean,
yeah.
But like Chadwick Boseman was awesome.
Yeah, Chadwick Boseman was amazing.
Yeah, but they thought they could kind of replicate that with others. It just hasn't been the same. And like again, part of this because then you also get into sequels and like you can only go so far with you get kind of diminishing returns in sequels as it is.
Yeah.
So anyway. Back to Iron Man.
Yeah.
So you get the replace the arc reactor's chest, and you got we talk about the electric magnet, whatever, and
he's testing out his thrusters and stuff like that, and starts at 10%, gets launched into the ceiling. It's flipped back. It's the vaulted ceilings of his shop.
Does he go to the gala first before like his first test flight?
Does he?
There's a test flight that's like just like over the city and like
woo! Yeah.
I think it's the gala first, right? Because like he sees Pepper there.
Yeah. Because earlier she had mentioned that it was her birthday.
So I mean that was my thought when she when they rip out the original reactor.
Yeah.
And he tells her to get rid of it. Like she holds on to it and like. She's responsible for buying her own birthday gifts.
Yes.
Like,
she tells him that it's her birthday, and he's like, "Get yourself something from me." She's like, "I already did." She's like, "I hope it's nice." She's like, "It's very nice." and he sees it later. He sees it. Yeah, he sees her at the gala, and she's wearing this beautiful blue dress, and he walks over to her and tells her how nice the dress is, and she's like, "Thank you. You bought it for me for my birthday."
Coulson comes up to him and is speaking to him, and he sees her.
Yeah, that's right.
He's like, yeah, no, we'll put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
And he's kind of amazed by how stunning she looks.
Yeah. And he comments on the dress and how great she looks in it. And she's like, "Thank you. You bought this for me for my birthday."
And they're out on the patio, and then she's like, "Look at your drink," and she wants a martini.
Mm-hmm. And this is when he's not just trying to put the moves on her. He's legitimately they're legitimately attracted to each other.
Yes.
And
he's already had the test at this point.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's flying through he goes up, he wants to see how.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, because he goes high up in the atmosphere. His suit freezes because of the ice buildup because he went too high. And then that's when he gets
cold up.
Yeah, that's when he gets the idea he's got to replace the material he's using with a gold alloy that has a lower freezing point. And
I don't think we haven't mentioned yet. Jarvis is voiced by Paul Bettany.
Yes.
So
Jarvis is voiced by Paul Bettany. And so he has Jarvis, using the automated machines and stuff to build the suit while he is at the gala.
Right. And then like he kind of falls and he's able to get back his thrusters and he flies and he gets back home and then like he tries to stop and he just drops through several layers.
He tries to land on the roof and he just falls, just drops through several layers, right onto his piano, onto his grand piano. And through the floor, down into his workshop.
Anyway, so yeah, I forgot because what's important because when he's getting a drink, Pepper, Christian Everhart shows back up.
Yes.
And she's like, "Oh, I thought you were actually serious." And they said you were going to stop manufacturing weapons.
Yeah, and then he's like, "What are you talking about?" And she shows him pictures. Showing him pictures of the 10 rings of Raza with Stark weapons.
Stark missiles and weapons, right? And he tries to talk to Obadiah about it, right? It's like, "Oh, who do you think blocked you out? It was me."
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, because he's asked, like, are we like dealing on to like both sides? He, previously before he even shut down, he thought, "Oh yeah, we're just building like weapons for America and like United Kingdom allies," right? And he sees like these weapons that have been used on like a village from like Afghanistan, right? And it's like, "Oh, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
So the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I locked you out," and he's trying to hush him about it, right? And so
so next thing you know, the next iteration of Tony's Iron Man suit is done. And so he puts it on.
With Hot Rod Red.
Yes, with Hot Rod Red. Throw some Hot Rod Red in there.
He sees the screensaver on his computer. It's like, we need to add some Hot Rod Red.
Yep. So it's his red and gold suit. And
which is like the classic Iron Man suit at this point.
Yeah.
But
so he takes off through the hole that he broke through the ceiling and everything. Takes off out there. Flies to Afghanistan and starts destroying Stark weapons that are stockpiled out there.
And then there's, all these little guys trying to threaten the villagers, right? Another great action sequence.
Yes, I love the sequence.
And this guy, he's concerned about his family, and he kills like all the combatants.
Yep. Yeah, they're going to execute this guy. They're going to execute this guy, and then his family. There's other terrorists holding them at gunpoint, and so it goes to a POV of inside Tony's helmet, and he just sees all these little targets show up on all the terrorist heads.
Hostile civilian. He just shoots tiny little missiles.
Yep. It just pops out of his shoulder and then just shoots them all. And all the terrorists drop.
If you have not seen Iron Man, we've seen the Mandalorian.
Yes. Yep. It's like the whistling birds. Yep. Like the whistling birds in the Mandalorian.
Finally, the guy that's kind of like the not really the general, but the captain, trying to radio back.
The guy that is like Raza's second in command.
Yeah.
That was giving the guy that was giving Tony such a hard time in the cave. The guy that was sort of in charge of the project in the cave.
He punches through the wall, he grabs him.
Mm-hmm.
Then he just dumps him in front of all the villagers.
Dumps in front of all the villagers. He's like, he's all yours, and then flies off.
Tank shoots him down.
Yeah. Tank shoots him down, so he fires a missile into the tank and then just starts walking away, and then the tank explodes.
Which is just like classic scene from this movie. Right? It's just like it shoots him down. He gets back up. It shoots at him again. He just turns away from it, and then and he shoots, and the tank blows up as he walks away.
Yep. I love that shot.
It's great. No, it's great. Like, it's kind of like, look back at it, it's like a lot of really good, iconic scenes and sequences.
Yeah.
In the movie. And like, you kind of think, I'm glad, I was kind of happy to see like the Mandalorian, because we were talking about it. Like, I feel like Favreau really flexes stuff again.
Yeah.
He really has a good understanding how to.
Oh, he does. He does.
For these things. So.
He really does.
And the funny thing is, the next thing is like he's flying back home, but like this is like he's flying back from an active war zone.
Mm-hmm.
It's a no-fly zone.
Yeah.
So the U.S. Army's like,
the Air Force. Yeah, the Air Force like spots them on their radar, and like, if we got a bogey, do we have any experimental aircraft out?
And like this entire sequence is also really, really good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so they
it kind of gets lost in all of it, but it's really good.
Yeah, so Rhodey calls Tony to see if he's got any secret projects that he's sending out. Tony's like, nope, I don't.
Nope.
And then two F-22s come up on either side of him.
I gotta
go. Like, I gotta go. And so they're chasing him. As he's trying to get away from him, one of them ends up hitting him and rips the wing off of the plane. So he's got to, and then as the pilot ejects, his chute. Yeah, his parachute
because
doesn't open.
He's still in his seat, right? But the ripcord in the seat, it's not pulling.
Yeah, it's not pulling, so it won't let him deploy the chute. So Tony's got to fly down and catch up to him and punch the mechanism so that the parachute will deploy. And meanwhile, the other plane is coming after Tony because he just shot his wingman down.
I think even before that, though, like when still just the two of them, he hooks onto the belly of one of them.
It's out of the belly of one of them.
It banks. He's like,
yep.
What is...
He's like, we lost him. Wait, there he is. What is that? Looks like a man. Yeah, so then he calls Rhodey. He's like, so remember what I told you?
It's me. He's like, and he's thinking, it's like, technology.
Yes, I know.
No, it's literally...
It's me. I am in the suit. It's like, what are we to tell people? You crashed one of my planes. What are we to tell people? It's like, tell them it was a training exercise, what you always do, right? It's like, no, we're not going to say it's a training exercise. Then it cuts into a press conference. There was an unfortunate training mishap.
Thankfully, Anthony Edwards wasn't in one of the planes.
Yeah.
Then
yes.
We know what would happen with Anthony Edwards.
Yes. Especially if Tom Cruise was in there too, then Anthony Edwards is toast. Poor Goose.
Poor Goose. Oh, we should do both of those movies.
Yes, we should.
Do both Top Gun.
Yep, we should. Those are great movies.
Oh my.
Yep. But
so meanwhile, even after all this, right? So eventually, you also scene where like the 10 rings have recovered Tony's armor, suit that he made.
Yeah, and so they, Obadiah goes and meets with Raza.
Right, and like you don't realize this first of all. So then he shows up, you see him kind of walk out, and like, oh, this looks weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he like, oh, and he's like, oh yeah, you should have killed him in the first place.
Yeah, you should have killed him in the first place when I ordered the hit on him. And so then that's when Obadiah reveals his little paralysis tone.
Yes.
He's wearing earplugs. He has this little device that he hits a button on, and it just lets out this tone that paralyzes somebody for 15 minutes.
Yep.
And yeah, so he's
able to gather all the intel on Stark's suit, so he can start building his own prototype on it.
Yep, and then he kills Raza.
They kill all of Raza's men, and presumably they kill Raza also. Because he says that the paralysis is the least of his worries.
Yeah. And also Raza doesn't show up for the rest of the movie, so...
for the rest of the series.
In the words of Hans Gruber, for the rest of his life.
Unfortunately, he will not be showing up for the rest of his life. It could go either way. We will be doing Die Hard.
Yes, we will.
And it will be a great episode.
Yes, it will. So Obadiah goes back and has his scientists working on creating the suit and trying to create that mini arc reactor that they can't figure it out. And his top scientist is Ralphie.
Say it's impossible.
His top scientist is played by Ralphie from A Christmas Story.
Because he is
Peter Billingsley.
Jon Favreau. Yes, Billingsley and Jon Favreau are very good friends. I always love that, though. It's like, it's impossible. Tony Stark built this in a cave
with scraps.
Yeah, Peter Billingsley. Like I said, he's showed up in Elf, which of course would make sense for him to show up in Elf.
Yeah,
love the Jon Favreau stuff, but not Mandalorian yet.
Not yet. But yeah, so Obadiah decides that if he can't recreate the mini arc reactor, he's just gonna steal Tony's. So he shows up. Tony's sitting in his living room, and he shows up. uses his little paralysis
Well,
tone
even
thing on
before
him.
this, right? So Tony sends
Oh, yeah.
Pepper,
Pepper.
to his office to download everything off his computer.
Yes, to download everything off his computer.
He doesn't trust Obadiah. He wants all of that.
Yeah, so he wants everything that he wants everything that Obadiah has in his secret files on the computer.
That's for this, right?
About his weapon sales and all that stuff.
Oh, that's right. That's what it is.
About his black market weapons dealing. So he sends her to do that.
He clicks a little thing that's on the thing in his office, and the video that's the end of that little prologue where they're doing the thing, like you think of it as being one of those videos that's being sent to the media with a hostage.
Yeah.
But no, it's actually only meant for Obadiah because she does the translate on it.
Yeah, she is translating. It's them talking about Obadiah.
And it says like, you didn't tell us the target was Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And so as she's downloading it, Obadiah comes in. They have this awkward conversation.
Yeah, they have this awkward conversation, and she's able to put a newspaper over the flash drive, the giant flash drive,
because it is 2008.
Yes. Yeah, so she's able to sort of cover it up with the newspaper, and then sort of sneak it out of there when she leaves after the conversation.
He wants to know if it's today's paper because he needs to do the puzzle.
Yes. So she gives him the paper while palming the hard drive, and he goes.
And Coulson shows back up because he still wants.
Yes, because it was the time. It was the time that Tony told him that they were going to meet. It was the time he was going to put it on the schedule.
Like yes.
So he's there. Yep. Let's meet. Let's go right now. And so she's walking out with him. But Tony, meanwhile, what we hadn't mentioned yet was Tony opened up the package that Pepper brought down to him, and it was his old arc reactor with a little ring around it that said "Proof that Tony Stark has a heart." It was in a nice glass case, and the perfect sentimental gift for the man who's not sentimental.
And this is important.
Yes,
because Pepper does not go back to the Stark residence.
No, she does not.
On the hill, she goes to Coulson, and they're gathering people from S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, so that they can storm the Stark facility and take Obadiah out. But Obadiah goes to Stark's house
and uses his little paralysis on.
Yes, uses paralysis tone thing on Tony.
And he's just like, he looks at. I like the exchange. Like, no, this is your Ninth Symphony. This is your masterpiece.
Yeah,
that you've done. And this is where it gets into that Oppenheimer territory. As watching it, it's like, what do we use this? You think you can use this technology for some greater good, but then it can also be used for some greater evil.
Yes, because it's a power source. Essentially, it is a power source. It can power anything you need it to power.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's like, go watch Oppenheimer, like, it's kind of, like, Diana James, it's not like a Nazi or, like Stalin or some big Soviet guy. He's still like a villain within the movie, and he's got not the greatest motives. So it's interesting to play both of them off, especially if, the last Downey Jr. movie I saw was Oppenheimer, and I saw Iron Man. And they go hand in hand in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is really where you see like Jeff Bridges really shine through as he's talking to him in this sequence. As he takes it out of his chest.
And then
he realizes that he's just going to sell all this technology to whoever wants to buy it.
Yeah, and because the paralysis lasts for 15 minutes, he basically leaves Tony for dead.
Yeah,
because he doesn't see Pepper's gift on the table.
Yeah, he's able to get himself over, close up to the table. And then little robotic arm.
Yeah, as he's reaching out for it, he drops the floor, and then he can't get back up. He doesn't have the strength to get back up, and then you see the little robotic arm, that dummy. I think that's what he ended up naming that one. It was Dummy.
Yeah,
but yeah, it actually does something right for once. It saw that he was reaching for the old arc reactor, so it picks it up off the table and gently lowers it down to him. Where then he picks it up and smashes the glass case and
he's able to get the back end power himself and his suit.
Which, so we know for a fact that this original arc reactor did not have an electromagnet.
It did not.
He puts it back in without attaching an electromagnet.
Hey. Good enough, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so because it's the old model, it's not as powerful as his more recent one, his second iteration of it. It only has...
It's actually a really good point.
It only has a certain amount of power to be able to power the suit. Now, Obadiah is back at the Stark facility, putting the finishing touches on his...
larger, bigger... Like he'll say, like, I put my own touches on that.
Yeah, on his Ironmonger suit.
Yes, his Ironmonger suit.
And, it's this gigantic, it's like 3 times the size of Tony's.
Yeah. It's funny when you see him later where you just see kind of Jeff Bridges kind of like standing in it.
Yeah.
Whereas like, Iron Man suit's like, yeah, it's not much larger than Tony.
Yeah.
It just kind of fits over him.
Yeah.
Like a glove.
But no,
right?
yeah, but the Ironmonger suit is basically like a mech that he's in there controlling.
Yeah. If you think about like, how Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah. In Aliens.
But it's enclosed.
Yeah.
I don't know why, I guess this is why I'm thinking about Aliens. This is like when we kind of cut to like Stark facility, like some of this kind of felt like Alien where like they're in the facility there and they're looking for Obadiah.
Yeah. The
right. And he just kind of
Coulson and his men are in there.
The chains moving back and forth and like they don't know where he is. It kind of like, I don't know, that's where my mind kind of went. This scenes with an alien where like, it's
off in the shadows somewhere, but you don't know where. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, because Pepper had led Coulson and his people and his agents to the facility because she had a key card that would access all the areas. Right.
And then like, it won't work because he locks her out of it. Mm-hmm. And then he puts the little explicit device on it.
Yep.
Like, step back.
Yeah, she's like, he puts his little device on there. He's like, is that going to pick the lock? Like something like that. Step back.
And it blows. They go in, and it's a good little tense little sequence. And eventually, like, you kind of see like, they're kind of looking at the space, this giant empty space. Right, because like he hears the explosion, and so like that's when he's able to power up the suit. He gets into it, and he hides enough, and then eventually reveals himself, and Stark finally shows up. And like I guess this is the thing, like this is for a while, especially for the first Avengers. He thought, like the climax sequence was weak, but I don't know. Watching this again, it's good.
It is good. I mean, it's not a long fight. It's not drawn out, but it's good. I mean, they do what they set out to do with it.
Yeah. I get some of the stuff is a little like, I don't know, like, especially when they're fighting like on the highway. I get that. I can see where like, because like Transformers has some of that stuff, and you see it within several things, and like Incredible Hulk will use it.
Yeah, I mean they have to make a spectacle out of it. That's just the rules for climactic battles.
But I think it's part of it's because like both Downey and Bridges play it so well, like it actually works.
Yeah, and then you get the callback to the freezing at high altitudes.
Right.
And the whole reason why Tony upgraded his suit to deal with it.
Obadiah, and again, like, Obadiah is more, he's a businessman. He's not, he's obviously not a scientist.
Yeah. So
he's
Tony
boasting about his suit, and Tony's just like, did he solve the freezing issue?
It's like, well, the what? And so, Tony's flying up. His suit's got like 10% power and is dropping the higher he goes. And Obadiah's right behind him, catching up to him. And then just as Tony's arc reactor dies, like doesn't have enough power to power the suit, Obadiah's suit is starting to freeze. But Tony's isn't.
Nope.
Because he solved that problem.
It falls. And obviously he's not dead yet.
So he's able to, so Tony's able to get back down by just short bursts of the thrusters to slow his descent because he's running off emergency power. And Obadiah's dropping like a rock because his suit's frozen.
And, they both end up on top of the facility above the arc reactor. Mm-hmm. Not Tony's arc, I think both of his arc reactors, obviously.
Yeah. So they're on they end up on the roof.
Arc reactor.
No, they end up on the roof of the building where the big arc reactor is. The original arc reactor. The full-sized arc reactor. They're directly above it, fighting around the skylight up there. And Obadiah ends up knocking Tony through the skylight, and so he's hanging on there. His suit's basically dead because he's run off of emergency
Obadiah
power.
Is still more concerned about trying to show off Tony as opposed to thinking clearly.
And at this point, Tony's not wearing his helmet. He's not wearing one of his gloves, one of his gauntlets. So he's severely handicapped in this fight right now.
Even though he just had the big blow up, several thousand,
so his
tens of thousands of feet in the air.
Yeah, so Tony had communicated with Pepper that he was going to get Obadiah above the arc reactor, and then he was going to instruct her to blow the reactor.
Yeah.
And it would fire all that energy straight up into Obadiah. And so
But now he's over it, and he's asking her to do it, and she realizes that.
Yeah, because Obadiah comes closer to him, and as soon as he's close enough to him, Tony knows that he's not going to be able to get out of the way in time, and he needs to take out Obadiah, so he calls Pepper, and he tells her, blow it. And she doesn't want to at first because she doesn't want it to kill Tony, and he's like, do it, blow the reactor. And so she does it, and miraculously, the force of the energy coming up knocks Tony out of the skylight and back onto the roof.
Because, of course.
And he's able to get out of the way. Then Obadiah takes the full force of the arc reactor's energy.
And then he falls in the arc reactor.
And then he falls into the arc reactor and blows up. In case there was any question on whether or not he survived getting a full blast of arc reactor energy, he fell into the arc reactor and blows it up.
It just exploded. You got some Obadiah on you.
You got some stain on you.
You got some dude on you.
That just sounds wrong. You got some dude on you. But yeah, so Tony survived. Obadiah didn't.
No.
Yeah, so then after all that, they're talking to Coulson again, and Pepper's like, "What is it? The strategic what?" He's like, "Just call the shield.
Just call a shield.
Just call a shield."
Because at this point, Tony is going to provide the cover story about what happened, and that the person in the suit was just a bodyguard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
he was off on some boat.
So there's a press conference, and Tony's supposed to go up there. They give him cue cards. They give him note cards on what to say, and they have this whole story. S.H.I.E.L.D. has this whole story planned out that, it was a bodyguard in the suit, and Tony's like, I don't know, a bodyguard? So he gets up there.
Christine Everton's still there, and she pushes back on it, and he doesn't know how to respond to it, and he's still a little smitten, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but so he's looking at the cue cards, and he's like, you can kind of see the gears turning in his head.
And it leads to probably one of the most important scenes in any movie in the last 20 years.
To where he just admits, I'm Iron Man.
I am Iron Man.
Yeah, and then the credits roll.
And it goes like...
Which that was, I believe that was actually Robert Downey Jr.'s idea.
Yes.
Because they were supposed to, I think the original script had them going with the whole bodyguard thing. And then I think he suggested that why not just admit it?
Which fits perfectly with the character.
Yeah, it does.
And like I said, I think it's so consequential because, I don't think you can make the rest of the MCU series if you don't have that scene.
No, you can't. And Robert Downey Jr. was the perfect choice for Tony Stark. I mean, there was a lot of speculation that Tom Cruise would be playing him and stuff like that. But Robert Downey Jr., I mean, this is the movie that put him back on the map.
Yes.
I mean, he had a very troubled personal life and facing various addictions and whatnot, and just
the year before this, he was in Fincher's Zodiac, which obviously he was with Jake Gyllenhaal and Mark Ruffalo, but it's a cerebral movie. It wasn't supposed to be a big box office hit. If you've never seen Zodiac, oh my goodness, that movie is amazing. He's awesome in it, but obviously he's not putting him on the map. Right, it'd been a good almost 10 years since he'd been
because he had a good career going for him back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, and even in the late 90s, even with Ally McBeal when he was guest starring on that. But even in the 90s, even though when he was a little bit bigger before kind of some of his issues, you would not have thought of him leading a movie.
No. But he was the perfect choice for Tony Stark because the character of Tony Stark, his life was basically parallel to Robert Downey Jr.'s life.
Yeah, and so many of the same demons and addictions.
And so he was the perfect choice for the role, and he did amazing in it.
I keep looking back at it. I'm not going to get into the development of it at all, but Jon Favreau eventually got attached to it. Favreau really work with anything to do with the Daredevil movie? I can't remember. Anyway. There's a lot they bring into it, right? We talked about it with Oppenheimer, but there's a lot of spy-ish James Bond stuff going on with it as well.
There is. There is.
Because obviously at this point, when they're making it, when Jon Favreau got attached to direct it, and they cast Robert Downey Jr., this entire idea of the MCU was not into it.
Yeah, I mean,
this entire concept.
This movie, every aspect of it was a huge gamble on Marvel's part. because they're picking this B-list hero to headline this new cinematic universe that they're hoping to be able to create.
Well, one of the thoughts I had about it watching this time, and maybe it kind of crossed my mind when I watched it the first couple times. I hadn't thought out in a while, like, especially like the prologue, not just the prologue, I guess, but like the first chapter of the movie, right? So obviously part of it is the prologue. The other part's like, okay, you get back to like 36 hours earlier. It's the Vegas, and then they tested the missile, and then he's building the prototype of the cave.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot about it. Like, you could tell, like, they borrow stuff from Batman Begins.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, they're borrowing from the comic, but the way Favreau directs it,
yeah,
he's borrowing from Batman Begins.
Yeah.
You know, none of this is the idea that it's building towards this large cinematic universe.
Yeah. And so
it's drawing off other inspirations.
Yeah, and so back to that, it's it was a huge gamble because they have this B-list hero. Then they're wanting to cast Robert Downey Jr., who at that point in time did not have the greatest reputation.
But it lines up perfectly, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because Robert Downey Jr. was at the stage where he's beginning to recreate himself.
Yeah. And it was the perfect jumping off point for
Tony Stark does.
Yes, exactly. It was a perfect parallel to the character.
And it's funny now, and again, I'm coming back to Oppenheimer on this because it helps recreate Robert Downey Jr. And like he starts making some other movies which aren't quite as much of a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard to separate him off of Stark at that point.
Yeah.
And Iron Man. And then you reach Endgame. And I guess you can spoil Endgame.
No, don't spoil it yet. That movie's still only a few years old.
But within Oppenheimer, he creates an entirely different part of himself. It's like, oh, it's Robert Downey Jr. And he's kind of a villain. And you don't like him.
Yeah.
And he wins an Oscar.
Yeah.
Right? And it's I don't know. It's for me, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so then after the credits, we have the first MCU post-credit scene.
Yes, and now we have Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes, we have Tony Stark getting home, and he walks into his living room, and Samuel L. Jackson is standing there.
Dave Chappelle is there. Not Samuel Jackson. Dave Chappelle is there. It's Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, it's Samuel L. Jackson. And he introduces himself as Nick Fury and tells him that he wants to talk to him about the Avengers Initiative.
The Avengers Initiative.
And then...
Which at that point,
it
was a throwaway thing.
Yeah.
And both of it, the ending, the final line, where he's like, I am Iron Man. Like, okay, yeah, it's just kind of the thing in this I do. And also filming this, oh yeah, Avengers Initiative, right? Both were just
yeah.
And they both completely redefined cinema for the next 20 years.
Because, I think if I remember right, I think Marvel was, in a lot of financial trouble before this movie came out, too.
It's possible.
And that was just another thing that they had riding on this movie was it better be a success, because they didn't have anything to do if it wasn't.
Well,
and it was huge. Again, it was a huge success.
We talked about this. You had the X-Men series. You had the Spider-Man series. You had two Fantastic Four movies, which were basically duds.
Mm-hmm.
You had Daredevil with Ben Affleck.
Mm-hmm. You had Elektra with Jennifer Garner.
Which got spun off into an Elektra movie, which Jennifer Garner, but still, no one cared about it.
Yeah. You had the Thomas Jane Punisher movie, which I loved that movie.
Which is a good movie. It's an R-rated movie, though. So, and even at that point, I don't think they were expecting a lot of success off of it, but I think they're probably still disappointed by it. Same with the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movie.
Yep.
And even at this point, so this is 2008. So Iron Man comes out in May. The Dark Knight comes out in July. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had Batman Begins in 2005, which was a success, but it wasn't a huge success.
Yeah.
It was a bigger success than the Schumacher Batman movies.
Yeah. So, yeah, they at least had some plans for the future after Iron Man, because later in 2008 was when Incredible Hulk came out.
Right, yeah. So, they saw the success of X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman Begins, and, Superman Returns was 2006.
Yeah.
So that's before also.
Yeah.
And that was a modest success. It wasn't a huge success. It was a modest success at the time. Again, talk about at the time. Like Smallville had done pretty well in terms of TV-centric stuff. So it was worth seeing how that might do.
Yeah.
And it did really well when it came out. And, like you said, they had the Hawk idea out there. I still don't think they had realized yet to come with it. I don't think I had any thought of it also, but
yeah.
And they went all in on it. And a lot of it's, again, it's because like you were willing to follow Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man.
Yeah.
Because if you isolate this one off by itself, it still works incredibly well.
Yes,
as
it does.
Origin
yes, it does. It works incredibly well as
character.
A standalone movie without the rest of the cinematic universe behind it, that followed it. It works so well as just a standalone movie and as a superhero origin story. That's what
and difficult thing comes in. It's like you can watch Iron Man 2 next to this, and that's fine. But once you get to Iron Man 3, you kind of need the rest of it to go with.
Yeah. Well, also because Iron Man and Iron Man 2 were both before the first Avengers movie.
Yes.
So, yeah, once you have that first Avengers movie, once that first team up, then you kind of have to have seen at least the first two Iron Man and Avengers before you watch Iron Man 3 and to be able to like really understand everything that goes onto it.
And Mickey Rourke was still, he almost gets lost in all of it now. I liked him as a Whiplash.
Yeah, I did too.
I mean, there's faults to it. It's the typical second movie in a lot of ways.
But. Yeah, and I thought Sam Rockwell was fantastic as Hammer.
Great as Hammer. I love Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell's is great anyway. I love him in Galaxy Quest.
Guy.
Guy.
Guy. Guy. Even like Tony Shalhoub is so perfect in that because like it's right before like Monk.
Yep.
And it became like really popular with Monk, and then he's just there eating handy snacks.
Yep. Everybody else is freaking out. He's just sitting there eating handy snacks, just loving it, just loving the ride. We definitely need to do Galaxy Quest.
Because we will do Galaxy Quest.
We're not doing Galaxy Quest next, though.
No, we're just something different.
Yeah. So, are we ready to get into that, or do we have?
Yeah,
do we have a little bit more?
I think we covered enough of Iron Man.
Yeah, I think so.
We're not going to go. We're done with the superheroes, which is good.
Well, there's a hero. For now, we're done with superheroes.
Yes, there's a hero in the next movie, but I think we did good because, like, you have Superman, which kickstarts everything. Batman was almost a logical next step in all of that. And we could have gone Spider-Man or X-Men after that, but like I think Iron Man was appropriate because it kickstarted a true cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
But we're doing something different now. And I think it's something that's universal that people like. I hope. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. We're doing a movie that is universally loved by just about everybody, which I guess is what universally loved means. But
yeah,
it's kind of the definition of it. But
well, the way I look at this, I think about this is because like the first time I showed this to my oldest Charles was like 3 years ago. It was like May, and we all had COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I guess 2 years ago. Like, yeah, okay. I got nothing to do. We're gonna watch this movie. So, you should watch this movie.
Do you want to tell everybody what it is, or do you want me to?
You can say it.
As you wish. We're doing The Princess Bride.
My father, prepare to die.
We are doing The Princess Bride next.
Anybody want a peanut?
So if you haven't seen it, you got a week or so to watch it before that episode comes out. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. It is.
It's got fucking Fred Savage.
It's got Fred Savage back when he was still like young and cute.
Still back like in that
Wonder Years.
Like the first season of Wonder Years, where like he's afraid to kiss a girl.
Yeah,
it's got Peter Falk as his grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on.
Carrie Elwes. It's got Robin Wright Penn. It's got
it's got Robin Wright.
Yes, Robin Wright. Actually, she wasn't Robin Wright Penn yet. So yeah, it's got Robin Wright. It's got Andre the Giant.
Even before she touched Tom Hanks's penis.
Yes, even before Forrest Gump. But yeah, then it's got Andre the Giant. It's got Mandy Patinkin.
It's got Wallace Shawn. It's got Rex from Toy Story as an evil evil Sicilian. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? We were debating, like, what should we do next? Like, I guess let's do Princess Bride. And now I'm talking about, maybe it's because, like, we've been drinking while watching this. But, yeah, I think we should do Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah. I think it, yeah. So, again, if you haven't seen it, you got some time to watch it.
Christopher Guest.
Yes, Christopher Guest. Yes. And we can't forget Billy Crystal.
Oh, my goodness. We need to do Best in Show.
But yeah, you can't forget Billy Crystal as Miracle Max. I love Miracle Max. But we'll get into that next week. So I hope you enjoyed our discussion of Iron Man, and join us next time for The Princess Bride. We'll see you then.